2019. Thank you all for being here. This is our kickoff for the 2019 Art Discovery Series. And today we have a few more people than normal on our panel. We usually do 4, but this is the magic of collaboration. So we could have added even more than this. I wonder if everyone just scoots up, like, would it be bad to ask you to scoot up? I feel like I have my back to you, so everybody just one in, whatever. Oh, now she probably has to change the whole camera angle. Sorry, Ben. We're doing Facebook Live, so on Fridays that you can't be here, sorry. You can always watch Facebook Live. It's not quite as exciting, but if you're home and you can't be here, pour yourself a glass of wine, get some cheese and crackers, and join the fun. So hopefully we'll have some people watching today. But today, this is going to be a fun one. Some amazing collaborations have come out of this group, and I'm going to just start at that end. This is Myron Whitaker from I always want to say South, North Carolina. Michelle Maloney, North Carolina. Vicki Grant, North Carolina. So I got the Carolinas over here. And then we have Kathleen Hope from right here in Fountain Hills, Seth Fairweather from right here in the Valley, and Marilyn Stevens, we call her Mel. So you're going to hear from all of these wonderful people. I'll ask each of them to tell a little bit about how long they've been doing what they've been doing, how long maybe you've been in the celebration, and then we'll go for the whole spiel about how we do all this. So I'll start with you and you pass that way, and then we'll go this way.
So are you going to ask me a question?
No, so I'm Vicki Grant. I'm from North Carolina, as Susan said, but okay. What else? Okay. How long have you been an artist?
Vicki Grant, retired architect of 35 years in the Washington, D.C. area. It became very obvious that I didn't want to deal with contractors, or I didn't want to deal with the codes, and I decided art was just so much more fun, and it just spoke to me, and I only had to make myself happy. So that's when I made a transition about 10 years ago, actually. And I just was making myself happy, and my neighborhood decided in Littleton, North Carolina, decided to have a festival for the arts. And at that point, I was kind of hooked, and I met Myron. And I said, oh, Myron, you can throw really big. My pots are like this big, and I do more slab work, and he likes my work, I liked his, and this is 10 years ago, and we traded. And then I said, well, would you like to work with me? And he goes, yeah, I think that'll be fun. And then he came out here 10 years ago. I came out 9 years ago, and I said, I think we could really have so much fun. So we've been back in that corner now for 8 years, and having a blast, because he can make things huge, and I like to decorate them. So we have a good time doing them together. And then, I don't want to blow it, but this is Michelle Maloney. She lives a mile from my house, and we hiked every day in the woods around our neighborhood. And she decided she built her home. I don't want to give everything away, but she built her home, and I said, well, come on out. And so we've been collaborating also with her beautiful woodwork, and I'm going to pass the mic.
I'm Michelle Maloney from Littleton, North Carolina, neighbor of Vicki's, and I've been doing carpentry work since I was old enough to hold a hammer. My father put me to work on the farm. And as Vicki said, we built our own home, and from that it led to me building my own furniture, because I didn't really like anything that was out there, and I like working with live edge, but I wanted it a little bit more formal than that. And Vicki and I, as she said, walked through the woods all the time, and part of my inspiration for going into more of an artistic furniture design thing was Vicki, because we often stop and look at the same thing in the woods and just find sculptural things and artistic things in nature. And when I started to build something a few years ago, I asked Vicki if we could collaborate and put some of her ceramic work onto some of the pieces I was making. And we'll talk about a piece later on, but that's how I kind of moved into the artistic world of doing my functional pieces for my home and adding art to it. So this is my first year at Celebrations, though Vicki had a piece of our collaborative last year. And I'm excited to be here around all this energy, and it gives me a lot more ideas for things that we could be doing together. And that's it. Bye.
Hello. I'm Myron Whitaker. I've been doing ceramics around 12 years now. Like you said, we started nearly the same time. I worked for Mercedes for 20 years, building 18-wheelers, and got bored, went back to school, found ceramics, and fell in love. Called my job up here. The second year I was at this show, I decided to quit my job. I called up and quit. So it was time. I found out I could do very well with it. Was very happy and having a blast. It's opened doors for me to meet artists all over the country. Made some of the best friends I could ever imagine. So it was a good opportunity. Me and Vicki have worked together for a good while, and we enjoy it. We have two different styles of work, so putting us together is sometimes we butt heads because she likes one thing, I like another. So, but we end up finding a way to make it work, and we create some beautiful pieces.
My name is Kathleen Ho, and I've lived in Fountain Hills for about 11 years. Yeah, I think so. I'm originally from Minneapolis. That's where I started my art career. I actually have a background in color psychology. I also have a background in interior design. So before I got into art, I mostly did color work for architects and builders. I've always been around buildings, plasters. And so when I started painting in Minneapolis, I mostly did collage, mixed media, and traditional like oils. It was all too boring for me. So I wanted more texture. So when I moved out here, I started noticing and really appreciating the beautiful outdoors, and there was no original art. So that's how I started working in cement, is I started creating outdoor pieces for people's, outdoor living. And you can see right in the middle there, those are all my outdoor pieces. That led me, I did that for about 3 years, just trying to understand how cement worked and how I could work with it. And then I developed my gallery indoor pieces. So I do 2 lines of work, my outdoor and my indoor. All because I love the texture, I love pouring. It's kind of like ceramics in a way, but you don't have to fire it. So I've always been a really big collector of ceramics. And that was like my first purchase ever, but I've never wanted to be a ceramic artist. So cement was the best thing for me.
I'm Seth Fairweather. I have been doing this. This is my 3rd year here, and I work primarily with glass and mixed media. I lived all over the country. I don't know if I can really say where I'm from. I started working with glass down in New Orleans. I also lived in North Carolina for a while, mostly just because I wanted to be like Myron. I didn't know it at the time, in retrospect, to be clear. But yeah, I don't really have any specific style that I do. It moves around a lot. It's very fluid. I think kind of a blend of industrial and organic juxtaposition of the 2 different styles. But yeah, I like making stuff.
I'm Marilyn Stevens, and I've been doing the show for 23 years. So you've probably seen me a million times. But I've been weaving, been dabbling with weaving since the early 80s, and I'm self-taught, meaning I just got a book and I started going out and cutting willows because I had them handy out in the backyard. And I had a little bit of a tan, and so I started playing around, and I ended up with little crooked vessels. And it just grew, over time. And so my main collaborator is my husband, Bill Stevens. So he isn't here today, but he has woven a great amount of our display area. And it's just excellent work, and we blend so well. And I tried to teach him because I had learned so much by the time we had got together. But he, being the man he is, he watched me, but he didn't listen to me when I tried to instruct, you know? And so he was off and running, and I was running after him, catching up and, you know, just trying some of the stuff he was doing. It was real innovative, real different, and exciting. And so together we churned and churned until we came up with this we have today. And then I've been collaborating with Vicki now for 3 years, Vicki, maybe? And it was all her idea, wasn't it? I think it was. She was after me to do this, and then we blended some really great ideas, and this is an example of it. And we've been wonderfully successful with it, and it makes me happy. So that catches us up to date.
Love all these people, and I just realized the only one we don't have art from yet is you. So maybe this year.
Oh.
Last year, the one I wanted got sold the first day of the show to somebody else. So if you see it and you like it, you better get it. So I think one of the things that I would like to know, and hopefully some of our guests today, certainly with collaborations, there's some really amazing things that are easy and wonderful and inspiring that come out of it, and then some challenges. And I also have decided that Vicki must like having friends, because you're sort of the mixer here for some of this. So the queen collaborator, and what I've watched in all of these situations is anytime artists collaborate, it elevates both of the artist's individual work as well as the collaborative work. So you see this like incremental growth. So I think I just kind of want to pass it around, and we can also have conversation. Oh, you guys do have a mic. So the question I would like for you guys to sort of address, and it might be together depending on your things, and I'll be holding and demonstrating your work, but tell us some of the super highs of collaborating and the biggest challenges of collaborating and how you work to overcome them.
Thanks so much. Well, I don't know what Myron's talking about button heads, because I thought that everything was going smoothly. I have been inspired with Mel's work for a very, very long time, since the beginning of when I was here 8 years ago. I mean, her color palette and my color palette are so extremely similar. Her textures and the way she works is inspiring to me. I have limits with clay by the size of the kill, by the clay that I use, and for me, this was a way of getting humongous and big, because she has no limits with what she can do with her reed and her willow and her horsehair. So we have a lot of similar, like I said, palette, texture. We use a lot of similar elements. I use horsehair, I use bone, and we kind of have that same vocabulary that we enjoy. But I don't, have we had any struggles? I don't.
No, I can't.
Okay, good. So we haven't had any struggles. And Michelle and I have had pretty much a blast, in my opinion. It's, she would come over and she goes, I've never worked so hard in my life and sweated so hard and doing this woodworking out of her garage, and I'm up in my attic, and I'm like, yeah, it's been a rough summer, but other than that, I think we've done pretty well. I'm going to let Myron speak to the bumps in it.
We both see ceramics in a different way. I'm a true ceramic. You heard it. See, that's the problem. She turned
I'm
me
in the
off.
middle.
We both see ceramics in a different way. I'm a very technical ceramics. I want things technically exact. And she uses ceramics as a palette. So it's two different minds thinking about ceramics in a different way. There's nothing wrong about it. She wants things on a large scale as far as decorative pieces. My brain sees things on a smaller scale. So we go back and forth, what feels better, what looks better. And that is part of it. I'm sorry. Okay. But, you know, it's just different minds think differently, and we work it out, and it works out great. It has opened both of us up into very large scale pieces, which we normally wouldn't have done. So it's been a lot of fun working with her. I love seeing how her mind works.
Can you describe who's got which part of this?
This is a piece that is already going to a client's house here in Arizona already. And I threw it and carved it, and then we took it to her house and she colored it and put the knob and the pieces together. So that's the way our collaboration would normally work. So that's just part of what we do. We have some very large totems out there that the first couple of years, first year we were here, all of our big pieces sold immediately. And we were out of big pieces, so we had a struggle of here I could only fire up to 30 inches tall. So we had, how can we do a 6 foot tall piece? And we decided to do stack work. So we started technically figuring out how to stack ceramics where it's stable and we could get the height that we wanted. And it's led to a very profitable, beautiful collaboration of very large work. We went as large as 10 foot tall by doing that. So it's, trying to overcome your problems in ceramics, there's issues that can't go, and you have to figure out a way around it. And that's worked with us.
I'm a carpenter, as I said, and I make a lot of furniture, but as soon as I met Vicki about 6 years ago and I saw her artwork, I'm like, oh my goodness, I need to get some of this in some of the pieces that I'm doing here, because her coloration and the way that she sees things is very similar to how I see the structure of wood and the grain in wood and everything else. And we hike all the time together, and I would say about 99.9% of the time we stop to look at the same tree or the same cloud or the same snow hanging off the branches, and we see the same sort of artwork in it. We see the sculpture, we just see these amazing colors, and we both go, wow, and say the same thing at the same time. So it's really, really cool. So last year I retired, and I was retired for about, 3 hours? Yeah. And I said, Vic, I want to make a sideboard. And she's an architect by, I know a lot of you have been through the booth, so you probably heard this story, but she's an architect by profession, and she drew it up for me, and I built the piece, and we discussed the artwork that was going to go on it, and when I got done, she said, I think I can take this out to the Arizona show. And it's my sideboard, Rick. So she brought it and she sold it, and we got a bunch of commissions off of it, and it was so fun just designing them and doing them. And this year she asked me to participate in a show, and I did. But in the meantime, through our hikes, we had an old tree that we walked by, we had an old tree that we walked by all the time as a burled maple, and we just looked at it as a piece of sculpture, and we just loved it. And the squirrel started masticating it, and I'm like, I have to take this down. And when I took it down and I cut some cookies out of it, and it broke apart, and I squared it off, I said, what do you see? And she says, it looks like you're looking down the Grand Canyon. And I said, I think the same thing. So Vicki put the pottery behind it to kind of look like the currents, and we call that our canyon currents, because it looks like you're looking down the canyon at the current and everything else. And then we came up with another series of what we think of looking down the narrows with the logs that fall over, because we like the logs with the moss on it and everything else. And we've gotten along very good from an artistic perspective. I think the only bumps in the road have been when I've been really tired and really hungry and really sweaty, and she comes over to talk to me and I don't listen, and she's like, you're not listening. I'm like, no, I'm not. Other than that, we love each other. Our artwork is just fabulous, and I love it, and it just brings a lot of spirit and joy to my life, and having her as a friend and a mentor is...
And she's loving it here.
Oh, yeah.
She loves
having
it.
a great time.
Yeah, she's having a great time.
So I want to say one thing. Yeah. So two things I say almost every week is one of the best things about being an artist, and for us, is that a lot of artwork is solving problems. So I've heard that in both these cases. And another really cool thing is seeing the world through the eyes of an artist. Like, I want to go hiking with you guys. So pay attention to that. So now.
And another thing is jealousy. Okay, I'll explain that. I wish I could be a sculptor. Seth does amazing sculpture, and so our pieces over here, the white one with the figurative, I kind of started painting 22 years ago. I'm not going to switch to sculpture. So one of the reasons I wanted to do a piece with Seth is because I get my fix of sculpture because he does that part and I get to participate. Basically with our collaboration, there was really no issues whatsoever because we just kind of talked about that piece is like 4-inch depth, it's on a wood base, and I kind of did a drawing of like the cutout and what the dimensions would be, and then I just really didn't run anything by him. I said I'm just going to do a texture on the outside of 2 pieces. We've actually done 2 pieces together. So I just did the finish, the cement on the white part, and I just brought him over to him, and I said, do your thing. And he's like, do you want to see it? I've got it partly done. I'm like, no. And so I said, no, I'll come over and see it. And this funny story, I came over to his house, and he's got a blind against the wall, and he says, so what do you think? And I said, what? He's like, is that good? I said that because they were fabulous. I love them. And that's basically why I like to do collaborative, because it makes me see different. I am not a sculptor. I don't see 3D. I see texture, but I would not probably be a good sculptor because I see color and shapes. And I don't know that that would be my interest, but I love it. I collect it. I have a couple of his pieces. So for me, it's so cool to see a piece come to life, and I feel like I had a part of that sculpture even though I didn't do it.
I think for me, the part that's most rewarding is that setting up a situation that people can, it's like reality TV, you know, where you watch people's lives just fall apart, you revel in it. Not that our lives fell apart, at least not yet, but you know, people get attracted to reality TV because that voyeurism, that secret glee of watching things that they're not supposed to be watching. And I think a collaboration is kind of like that because you see 2 people opening up and a trust, and maybe it's going to explode in everyone's faces and it's going to be awesome, or maybe something really beautiful is going to come out of it. And I think in this case it was more positive than a huge emotional meltdown. I'll let you be the judge. But yeah, there's a big sense of, you know, of vulnerability with it. When Kathy came over, she said, I was like, well, I could change it. It didn't have to be like that. And she was okay with the way it was, which was good for me because I was pretty busy. I didn't want to do it. But I think the kind of the most interesting part of the collaboration is opening up the different materials. I don't really work 2-dimensionally. I get overwhelmed by the endless possibilities of 2-dimensional work because in sculpting, I'm limited by physics. I don't do a lot of representational sculpture, but I do a lot of sculpture that kind of pushes balance and the actual construction of things. So physics and engineering is a big part of my work. When I don't have to worry about those things, as you know, reality is not really an issue. It's too much. I can't focus. So this was a way to get my 2-dimensional fix, to have something that gave me a starting point to build off of, and we could make something that kind of, when the sum of the parts was greater than the whole, or however that saying goes, I don't remember. But you know what I mean. So that's what matters.
Well, I was thinking what you're saying about engineering, and there's a lot of that goes into completing the basketry and our collaborative partnering with my husband. So he'll do the base and the body of the piece often, and if it's not a commissioned piece, then it's all up in the air. So we don't know exactly how it's going to finish out. So we look at different branches or different antlers or different attachments for the top or whatever. But usually that part of it falls to me as far as the completion. And what I try to create is, if it's, you know, when you have the body, it's well woven, it's beautiful, it's patterned, but I have to create a sense of grace and finishing. You know, it's just got to be perfect. It's got to sing when it's done. And it really makes you stretch. It really makes you challenge yourself, every one of them, unless it's kind of a repeat of something you've done. But they're always different anyway. But it's a growing thing. I really like it. It can be frustrating because you can be stuck for a little while on some of these big pieces, but in the end, I'm real happy with the results. It's worked out really well.
So one thing for all of you who like to come to the show, and we do have quite a few people who like to come back many times during the show, I encourage you, as you walk around, a lot of times we're looking at the art, but stand back, and I know Wendy does this, because Wendy's a beautiful collector of knowledge. I think that's something I learned from you that I love. But stand back and watch the artists sometimes. Like I'll just be observing from across the room, and you see them interacting with each other or just themselves in that problem solving. And you know, I walk by Mel a lot because I go up and down the stairs, and she's right by the office, and she'll be looking, and sometimes she'll, well, what do you think? Should I put the horsehair on top or leave it? And it's really fun because that's what we're about. Instead of only seeing the finished piece with the artist, you can walk around and watch everything being created in real time in our own reality show, which we all get along. I would say this was the original reality TV show because it's 10 weeks long, and if you notice the format, almost all of them are 10 weeks. So there's a cycle that happens during the 10 weeks, but we are proud of the fact that this is a family that grows closer throughout the 10 weeks. Unless they're angry. We all make it to the end, yeah. But anyway, Seth is funny. So Seth, there's another person that you've done some collaboration, and in fact, if you saw the Facebook post, it's a piece of Seth and Stephanie Revenon. Stephanie came up to me and said, "Am I speaking today?" I'm like, "No." But can you talk a little bit about that experience too? Because the cast glass and how you and Stephanie came to...
My first year, Stephanie said, "Oh, you got the glass. That's cool." Because I wanted some glass stuff made. Where is she?
Well, her space is right there.
Oh, yeah, I knew that part. I thought you said she was watching me. And so we talked about casting some stuff that she had made in glass, and she made a horse out of clay, and we talked about how we wanted the legs, because glass legs are just so spindly and fragile that her vision was to have these steel legs that we met up at a welding class I was teaching in Mesa after the show, and we made a couple drawings, we did a couple test runs, and then we fabricated the legs. And we ended up casting 4 horses in different colors and textures, and then my favorite one is the last one that is in Stephanie's space right now, where we had 2 horses interacting, and we were able to add that element of trust where Stephanie said, just take these and figure out a way to put them together. So I got to take them home, and she was very patient, which was good, because I made a base, and then it took me like a week, and then I hated it, and I threw it away, and she's like, "Where are the horses?" I was like, "I'm working on it." And eventually I got them done, and I think they worked really well. I think that her style of sculpting, and then the way that the glass holds the light and that texture, and then the steel that goes with it. It all kind of came together to make something pretty special at the end.
Can you talk a little bit about cast glass and how long it has to cool and all that kind of thing? Because that's so.
My methods are secret. Glass cools slowly. It's an insulator, and it's very reactant to thermal stress. So I believe there's two different kinds of glass in the horses that we did. One of them will cool in about a week, and one of them cools over 3 weeks. So and then the problem obviously is that if you calculate that wrong, it's going to crack while it's cooling, and then you pop it out of the mold, and in the process of casting, every part of it is destroyed. So if it didn't work, you have nothing at the end of it. So it's awful, really. Casting glass is the worst. I wouldn't wish it on anybody except me. I love it.
Excellent. There's some noise, but I don't think we need to be worried about it. There's something back there. It's not shattering glass, so.
Now I'm having a panic attack.
No, there's something special happening over there. But okay, so do you guys have anything more you want to add? And then I think it's always fun to get some questions from them.
I just wanted to add that collaborations, for me, really make me grow as an artist, and I love it because I first started getting really interested in collaborations even before I did art. I used to ballroom dance a lot, and they always do like fusions of dance or fusions of music, and I just loved that. So I've always had that love of just the intermix of mediums in dance and music. And so I just wanted to let Vicki know that I'm catching up with her because I'm going to do 3 more collaborations this year. So maybe I'll take her to the queen position.
This place is the great incubator of art formation. So it's been like a privilege for all of us to watch the growth, the change. And when Myron first came in, we had lots of small pieces. Now we have lots of large. I mean, just every year. I mean, and we hope that you feel the same way, that every year there's something new to look forward to and new growth, and it happens from the time the show ends to when we open again, and then it happens from the time the show opens to the end of the show. You see this growth factor, and sometimes people who've never been here before wonder why would I want a season pass? It's because you can watch this happen throughout the 10 weeks. It's just kind of like, again, it's like a metamorphosis, a little incubator. So anything else before we do questions? Does anyone have any questions or comments or? Yes, please.
This piece that's right behind you has a cutout in it and a figure surrounded by a tangled web. I'd like to know what you meant to convey.
I would pick it up, but it's too heavy, even though I've been working out.
That's Seth's part. So Seth did I did the webbing on the outside, but I didn't know what he was going to do on the cutout, but I love that, just that texture of the webbing, but I had no idea what he was going to do in that cutout. So.
A deep, dark secret of me that I'm going to share with you because I feel like we have a relationship of trust now. I started in glass just to get an art requirement out of the way. I was pre-med and I was going into neurosurgery. And so I've always had an interest in how the body is put together and figured it work. And when I saw the design, the texture that Kathy put on there, it brought to mind the nervous system structure, axons, dendrites, and I wanted to have something figurative there. And then just have something that started to tie in to that texture in some way. And so I was thinking a lot about the nervous system and just as you get more and more macro in that structure, it continues to get more and more elaborate. So that was kind of my thinking in the construction of it.
Can you imagine having Seth do brain surgery on you?
It'd be awesome. Yes. Oh, that was a great question. Thank you. And it really is a beautiful piece that it's hard to do justice here, but you can look here and we can take it back to the space and you can look at it. And some of these ideas, like when I work on the Discovery Series schedule, we first have to jury the show, get everybody in, and then have to look at all their things. And then I have to go, okay, what topics might be interesting and who could populate the panel, and so all that kind of goes in, and then it's like I just have to sit down one day and get it all together. And it was I saw photos of Kathy and Seth and Stephanie shared a space at another art exhibit and posted photos of the collaborative pieces. I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys have to be on the panel. So that's kind of how my brain works. I'm glad I'm not a neurosurgeon, but so again, the generation of that idea came from last year, and they worked on it post-show and brought it back here. So I'm not a brain surgeon. Okay, any other questions? I know there's questions out there. Don't be shy.
I have one.
Yes.
Kathy, this is cement piece that you have, the base. Is that an outdoor piece?
No, it's not an outdoor piece because it's on wood.
Okay.
So is there uncaustic on top of the?
No.
It's all cement on top of wood.
Yeah, I don't do any wax on my work anymore. It's all, it looks like wax, but it's actually it's an acrylic mixture that I make. So it makes it feel really waxy, but yeah, that's it.
The question was, is that an outdoor piece? Because she does some that are specifically outdoor, but not if it's on wood. Yes.
Since we're talking about urology, as an artist, I'm just wondering about your dreams, dream states. How visible, how visual, how colorful, and does it influence your art?
If I drink tequila, it does.
I'm going to repeat the question for people that might not have heard. He's asking how their dreams are, if they're vivid, colorful, inspiring, because that's a really great question for an artist.
Is tequila going to be a constant?
Jack Daniels. Yeah, not tequila, Jack Daniels. I do see visions, and I do see things, and trying to figure out how to put things together. And I dream about finishing pieces that I have not produced yet. This year, I did complete some dreams that I can't come up with, and it's a very high-powered matte finish glaze. It's very hard to achieve, and I got that done before this show. So I do follow through on dreams.
I don't dream, I sleep.
So you probably have heard her talk about that huge installation piece over on the corner, and that is definitely reflective of a bad car accident that my husband was in, and we were in ICU for about 8 weeks. And from that, it must be in my dreams, I said I have to do this piece. And so I started working on it about a year ago, the thought of it, and it just stuck with me. I had to do it. I came to Susan with sketches. I said, I think I really have to do this. Can we find a spot? And then I'm like Myron, I would find myself waking myself up, and I knew I was trying to figure out how to put this thing together because it's huge. So yeah, and it's all, you have to work it out in your dreams. That's my opinion.
Oh yeah, sorry. I was daydreaming. Ironically enough. I don't always dream, but when I do, they're a trip. They're all over the place, and a lot of it's not physically possible to recreate outside of painting, which I'm scared to do anyway. But I do take kind of overall sensations from dreams and start to incorporate them when I can and when it's appropriate to the idea. I do a lot of very tedious, repetitive stuff like grinding and polishing, and so my mind wanders a lot. So that's probably more kind of a dream state where I come up with ideas than actually being asleep, because I'm pretty tired at the end of the day. I don't remember it all the time.
Yeah, I'm sure I dream a lot of color and design. I don't always remember it, but when you get in the studio and you're led a certain way, it does make you wonder if you hadn't dreamed it. You know, where'd that come from? You know, I don't know, just a thought. But sometimes there's just an image that comes to mind and pops in, or a color combination, and it's pretty exciting. It's like, I don't always follow those leads because time doesn't always allow, but it's pretty thrilling when you keep that line of creativity open and just things pop in.
I think I see that too, just in terms of inspiration. Like you talked earlier about sometimes you get stuck, but then you can literally see when all of a sudden they figure out how to solve the problem. And again, because I tend to see more of Mel, and it's just like she'll be studying something, or any one of you would be, and then all of a sudden it's like, wow. You know, the color, you know, the direction, should you go straight or should you angle? I mean, you literally see the problem being solved, and I'm sure some of that has to be subconscious, even if it's not a dream. So, I have weird dreams. I solve all my problems at night. Yes?
Hi, I'm very interested in collaboration. I started shooting and we did collaborative projects. And I'm wondering about your process. Do you have an idea about how it's going to look when you're finished? Or is it one person does something and then another person adds to it?
So the question is, do you have an idea ahead of time if you're collaborating how it's going to look when it's finished, or does it evolve as it goes with the two different people?
Well, for my and my husband's work, I don't have a clue. I mean, it is an evolution. I look at what he's done and I go, oh, holy moly, what am I going to do? And you know, then I take it to my studio area and I start playing with it, and all of a sudden, you know, it might take a few days, but when it does, it kind of pops through and it turns into something. And most of those urns that are out there have gone through that. Now, Vicki and I, in this collaboration, we're a little more planned. Now, she's in North Carolina, I'm in Montana, but we send photos, and so we know what palette we're working in. Although when I see her work live, when we get down here, I'm thrilled. This year, I was just thrilled. She had 3 pieces for me, and one is, I'll swear now, hung somewhere. This is the second, and the third is yet to be made. So, but they blended so beautifully. So, but we had the plan. We had the structural understanding of what we were going to do. So we didn't have to fiddle quite as much. But with the other work, it's really a different flow. And when my husband and I work together, it's understood that when he's working on a piece, I just be quiet and go away, and when I'm doing it, he gives it to me and then it's all mine. So it's truly a blend, and they just sing, I think. So it's kind of magical.
I've done it both ways. I participate in projects where they are very planned out in the beginning and everyone has their part that they need to perform. And then I've done the Exquisite Corpse style, where Exquisite Corpse is a game that writers used to play, where someone would write a paragraph and then fold the paper so all you could read was the last sentence, and that was the prompt for the next writer. And so I like working in that style a little bit more, where someone will do something and then you use that as the starting point for your part, and then maybe you trade back and forth a few times, maybe there's more people, you know, what have you. But I kind of like that more spontaneous development of ideas rather than the planning out unless, I mean, it really just depends on the idea. If there's something that has to be done a certain way, then that's the way you build it. But for pure collaboration, I'm more of the spontaneous school of thought.
I am too. I agree, and I think I like the fact that with Seth, like I just handed it over to him, and he just really surprised me. It was so beautiful. I just would have never imagined what he would do to my pieces, and to me, that's where the magic happens, because we both have really the freedom to just do whatever the other one doesn't care. And I prefer to do it that way. I mean, there is a little bit of planning, I think, in all the collaborations we do, but I think the less, for me, is better. Because it's that element of surprise, and when you trust somebody. I know you wonder how I could trust this guy, but I do. So it's been really fun, and I've already asked him, well, let's do another collaboration. He's like, well, I think I'm going to take a break, and I'm like, no, I know where to find you. I know where you live.
This summer, Mel and I worked on some big totems, and on the base of the totems are ceramic, and then the tops of them are her weavings. And I didn't know exactly what it was going to be till UPS delivered them at my door. So that to me was always like Christmas, because you go, well, we kind of knew color palette, we kind of knew this, we talked about height, but when Mel takes over, you don't know what's coming out of the box.
I think for what we do together, it's a little bit more structured because I'm building furniture and it has to stay together. But for some of our art pieces, we look at the wood and we look at the texture of the wood, and there's a synergy between us that says, oh, why don't we do this, and let's add texture to this bridge that we're making, and what if I do this with the pottery? Let's burn it, yeah. And I think, oh, okay, if you want to do that, and I step back, I'm like, wow, that's really cool. So there's a nice marriage between us going back and forth, but it's a little bit more planned on my part because, again, I'm building furniture, and then Vicki kind of looks at the artwork of the lines and that I've put together and builds her pieces, and for our art pieces, we just kind of went back and forth, I think. So, but we worked on it all together. So, except for the ceramic part.
We get to work like with our clients. Me and Vicki collaborate a lot together. We can produce 200-300 pieces or more. We've been producing a while. And like this piece behind Susan, we had a client who had very specific likes. So we got to collaborate with the client to take their ideas of our work and put it all together into their piece. And it all worked out. It turned out to be a gorgeous piece. So we get to collaborate with more than just each other. We get to collaborate with y'all and create what you envision in our work.
That's a very good point. And the best, in most cases, the best commission or custom pieces with artists are when you just give them the ideas, but let them run with it and be the artist. In some cases, it has to be super detailed, like a portrait or something, but if you're dealing more in terms of abstractive work or non-realism, if you plant the seed and let the artist go run with it, you're going to get the best work of art. Yeah. But yeah, it's one thing people love here. And again, it's part of the growth is it's not just artists and artists, it's artists and collectors and artists and visitors that foster all those ideas. Planting seeds that grow. So, into trees. Another very good question. Thank you for that. And I think sometimes the artists, everyone's different, but a lot of the three-dimensional artists, they think in 3D. So they may or may not do sketches. Like I know Vicki does sketches. She's also a trained architect. So linear lines and stuff mean a lot to her. But some of our 3D artists, like I have a client who's commissioning a sculpture, and they wanted a drawing, and I'm like, he draws in 3D, so he'll do a mock-up of the piece in clay, but he's not going to do a drawing, because it's not what he does. So just sort of knowing what area they excel in and play in is kind of important. So Wendy, did you have a question?
Yeah, I do. I can talk like that. I'm really interested in the collaboration element in that with the show, because I remember years ago when some of this was starting with people collaborating together. And I guess the question I have is, all of you as artists, when you started your artistry, had you ever thought about collaborating? How did it happen? Who instigated it? And, because it's, seeing all the different people in the show here, like you two coming together, and, and I can see how it's evolved with Walking in the Woods. But it's interesting, it's a generosity of spirit for you, each of you, to share your art with somebody else. So, had you ever thought about when you started with your art form?
I just like Seth work. I mean, and then I kind of liked him a little bit. So really that was what started it for me. I just loved his work, and I have many of his pieces. So it's not always that way, but for me, that's usually the start, is that I really, really admire somebody's work and I want to participate in a piece. A lot of times it's to problem solve, like someone is having, they have something and they don't really know what to do with it, and sometimes it's you're problem solving, but then at the same time, it kind of ends up being a collaboration, because you have an idea, well, let's just do it together and solve that problem. So I think collaborations are really, whoever you do it, it's for maybe different reasons. I learn a lot. What's been great is I knew nothing about glass. I knew a little bit about metalwork, but I just learned a lot by kind of his vision, and also being at his studio and seeing what he does and talk about it. It's made me, it's not that I'm ever going to be interested in glass or welding or anything, but it just makes me broaden my vision. And maybe that, whatever it is, it helps you also kind of think about your work a little different.
Kathy and I share a love of scarves. That's really, that was the foundation. I think you have a hard time doing a collaboration with someone whose work you don't understand, or it doesn't resonate with you. Beyond that, I think that it's the challenge of trying to build something that you wouldn't normally build. I don't work this way, not normally, with two-dimensional textures and things like that. So it's a new direction for me. It kind of gets me thinking about my work in a different way. I think it's more interesting to work with somebody whose work is radically different, but still resonates with you in some way. So really, it's just you got to find someone. Like, if you're always bickering, then it's not, like Myron and Vicky always fight. It's really troubling to watch. But if you can get along with somebody and you like their work, then I think that is all the potential you need to make something really spectacular.
Well, you're right. I think it is a generosity of spirit. I think that when Bill and I first were doing this, I was the weaver and he was the watcher. And it took a lot for me to first share that. That was, he wasn't aware of that, I don't think. But I think that I was clinging a little tight to that. And then trusting, and I think it's true for him handing a piece back to me. And yet, over time, we kind of get it now, but there was that little bump in the road in the beginning, I think, just as it was all mine, but it was limited. It was palette. I was thinking things had to be a certain way, and shapes were a certain way, and he just blew the top off the bat, and opened it all up, and very exciting in a wonderful way.
So generosity of spirit and trust are two super important things in collaboration. Do you guys trust each other over here? Yeah.
So I have one last thing to say, and that is the celebration of fine art allows all of this to happen. They foster it. They want you to meet and greet other artists and to share in your neighborhood. And for me, it's so much thankful that we have celebration.
And we're grateful for all of you, because without all of you wonderful art lovers like us, none of this would matter. But I think on that note, wow, that was perfect. So, oh, yes, please.
If we want to watch this on Facebook Live, do you go to Celebration of the Art?
Facebook.com/celebration of fine art. Or you can put celebration of fine art in the search line. And we also post these to YouTube. I'm looking at my Beth. This is Beth, by the way. She always is very quiet. She's my wonderful public relations and solves all my wonderful issues of video and stuff. So Beth and her team. She's an introvert, but she's amazing. So so that's a good question. Thank you. And please like us and follow us. And we are on Instagram and other places. So, and share with your friends. Thank you. And next week is all about casting a bronze, from clay to finished pieces. So we'll have a great panel for that as well. So thank you all. Have a wonderful weekend.